when I start to see all of that, I think that for me, it becomes more like I can identify based off what they're wearing and their color. Everything that I do, at least everything I try to do, is with the intention of giving back. I call myself and very proudly a servant leader. There's so much,
Yeah.
I think that there's so much within Arizona. Like, there's culture, there's people, there's, and soon hopefully there'll be a stronger presence in fashion. But I think that that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to make sure that the country, the world, whoever sees Arizona as also, a strong state.
Looking for real stories of real people making a difference in the Grand Canyon State? Welcome to Finding Arizona podcast. We sit down with Arizona's inspiring entrepreneurs, creatives, and community leaders and give you a front row seat to their journeys, passions, and projects. Whether you're a local trying to find a hidden gem or just enjoy watching someone chase their dreams, Finding Arizona is your go-to place for authentic conversations with a desert twist. New episodes drop weekly, so hit subscribe and start exploring Arizona one story at a time.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose. As always, we bring in fantastic guests, and today is no different. Today's guest is someone who is redefining what a fashion show can be and what fashion itself means. Rosa Cardenas is the founder of Latino Fashion Week Arizona, and a cultural fashion platform dedicated to redefining representation through high fashion, a runway experience that celebrate culture, identity, and storytelling. With active chapters in Arizona and Los Angeles, Rosa has built something that goes far beyond the runway, a movement where fashion becomes language, resistance, and community. And right now, those two organizations are coming together for one of the most exciting events Phoenix has seen, the Power Issue, Culture in Couture. Happening on June 13th at the Arizona Center. Rosa has a way of saying it best herself. Power is the ability to create opportunities for others. It is giving students a place to begin and transforming talent into purpose. That is exactly the kind of story we love to tell here at Finding Arizona. Rosa, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction. Oh my gosh, I feel so special and
Absolutely.
one honored to have been asked to be a part of your podcast. I truly am humbled by the invitation and the opportunity to be able to share with everybody exactly what it is that we do, what Latino Fashion Week is, and what Latino Fashion Week Foundation is as well. So we have the two components. So again, thank you, and I'm excited to be able to share everything and anything that you guys want to know.
Oh, absolutely. So this is going to be a fun time for me to just kind of get to know you. And I'm going to start by asking you the question that we typically ask everyone is give us a little bit of your origin story. For one, you are someone who is just, again, just a certain level of dedication, and there's a level of like you love this and it's a part of you. But I would love to hear from you where it all began, and if there was any person in your life that's kind of influenced you, or even more importantly for this show, what made you decide Phoenix needed to have something like this?
Well, first, it all started, and I don't want to sound so cliche, but it is true. My family, my background. I am the daughter of immigrant parents. I was born in Mexico. However, I was raised in the United States since I was a year and a half. So I was, kind of like La India Maria, ni de aquí ni de allá. It's like that whole
Yeah.
identity thing that we all kind of go through.
Hmm.
Um, but my parents started a family business that they've had since 1982, and it was a furniture business. Within that business, there was fabrics and obviously textiles and all of that. I was surrounded by a lot of different people in that industry of the furniture and interior designers. I soon was really drawn to that, and I think I found the power of myself, or my gift, I guess you could say, is color, and kind of getting that related to the interior of the homes, and then kind of then trickled into a little bit of like the fashion portion of it, but I did never really called myself like a fashionista or anything. I just loved clothes and fabrics and textiles and color and all of that. But I
Yeah, I get
later
that.
realized, that that was something that was embedded in me. That was a DNA thing. That was something that um it was already in me, but I seen how that power of the color psychology and the fabrics and all of that played such a huge part in the home and on the person. Like it's certain fabric makes certain people feel good, and depending on your day, or what you're working towards, you gear towards those colors or those fabrics. So my inspiration really did come from my family and being submerged into fabrics and colors early on
Nice.
through other interior designers.
That's amazing. I love that. I usually ask this question just because it's a level of like understanding the artist's roots and like where the tree comes from, like that sort of storytelling. And it's so amazing too, where it's the nuances, where it's like you could have gone a different route. You could have gone textiles, you could have gone somewhere like down that route. And the fact that you found this level of like representation through color, it's like that's really it's beautiful. It's a beautiful story. So I really do appreciate you giving me that portion of it. So, one of the things that you we were talking about was the fact that you've had this conversation and you've brought this up about fashion. You've described it as a language, identity, resistance, and power. How did you arrive at that understanding? And then how do you get people to see fashion through that lens?
Well, I feel that for me, it's been something that I've been able to kind of naturally gravitate towards. I've been able to really see. With my background in interior design, I've been able to see different personalities. So it really does come down to personalities. But when I start to add in the resistance part and you start to do, when I start to see all of that, I think that for me it becomes more like I can identify based off what they're wearing and their color. When it came to this particular event that we have coming up on June 13th, the way that we came up with this concept was, I feel that we are in a climate right now where, instead of unity, we're kind of creating a divide. And not only that, but we're also wanting representation. We want identity. We want the Latino community to know that our message is being sent, and it's being sent through our words with our everything that we stand for, authentically and genuinely. What I have found has been that our garments, our pieces, our design, our styles have been accepted worldly, on big stages, especially, big powerhouse designers have used a lot of our designs. And so I think for me, it's been more of like, although that makes me feel good and it makes me feel proud to know that, I feel that it hasn't necessarily been credited where credit is due. And so to me, it almost feels like a
Yeah.
responsibility and an obligation for us to be able to create something that we can then do where, do what we kind of fill in the gaps while all at the same time creating a bridge,
Yes.
especially like I said, with the representation as Latinos, and it just as any culture, but I could only speak as a Latina. I feel that we all come from somewhere. We all have an origin, like you said. We our roots are rooted, and we're a part of that trunk, that tree of life. And so, with all of that, there's a lot of different parts and different elements. And I think most of our commitment for me when creating Latino Fashion Week has been making sure that our history is still being told, that the resistance part is not being erased, that the hands of the artisans that started all of this, it doesn't matter who it is, how it started, or how far it could go, that they are also represented and that their story is also being told in some way or the other. And then I'm not just talking about just now. I'm talking we go back to uh history. I want to celebrate the unsung heroes. I want to celebrate the heroes within our own family, but also some of those that are trailblazers and opened up doors for all of us, right? And obviously outside of the fashion world, but for me, I think the commitment is exactly that. We had an event in February called the Audacious Fashion Live, and in that we made sure that we spoke about Ramon Valdiosera, which is the I would say an unsung hero, just because not many people know his history and the impact that he brought to the fashion world. And that was, he was the first, I call him the godfather of the pink. He brought the fuchsia, the bougainvillea colors, the bright
Yeah.
colors. He was the one that came to New York back in the 40s as the first Mexican to show in one of their shows. And everybody that came to that show was like, who is he? What is this color pink? And it just started to identify the Mexican culture as bright and lively and all of that. So I think for the most part, one of our goals and our mission is to always make sure that there's representation outside of mainstream, that we're bringing up the people that are not necessarily always mentioned in the books or mentioned on social media. Everybody can, we celebrate them all, but I think our commitment is exactly to that. And I think that's why we've also been very much embraced by so many people, is we do have a commitment, and we
Yeah.
understand that we're going to use our platform as Fashion Week to tell our story and tell others' story. And so everybody that comes to our fashion shows will leave learning so much more about our culture, about people they may have never heard of, and even our own people maybe would have not known about certain people that we're mentioning. So for me, it's honestly, it's just part of me. It's not something that I learned. I think it was just something that I was always kind of like an eye out for, like, wow, that's, who is this? Like, I
Yeah.
remember going on a trip to Mexico, and they said I seen someone wear a shirt, the Che shirt, and so he was a huge activist, and he wasn't Mexican, but people were repping him. And so I think that I was always pretty drawn to that part of, like, that curiosity in me, as not of the not knowing of who. So I always want to bring that part to people and letting them know, or ask themselves, who is she talking about? Who is this? And now we have the phone, and so
Yeah.
we have the power of just looking somebody up that you may not be familiar with, right,
Yeah. Yeah.
in real time. So I come from the library times, where we had to actually drive to the library, look the
Yeah.
person up, and get the books and do all of that.
Mhm. So I mean, you've brought up a lot of things here, and I want to just say um, how much respect I have for the passion and the ability to see the importance for wanting this representation, but also on top of that, the learning aspect of it for everyone to be educated, not just those who are coming in for the first time, but those who are still educating themselves about the culture and educating themselves through living life and through growing up in it. So that's something I want to set aside and say thank you for allowing that to be a part of the foundation of what you're building here. The other aspect that you brought up was trailblazers, and I want to give you your roses before anything else here because this aside, this what you're putting on right now, you are running a for-profit fashion platform and a nonprofit foundation simultaneously, and you've designed them to work together. That is a sophisticated dual structure that most entrepreneurs probably never would attempt. Walk us through how that model works and why you built it that way.
I think that, for one, I didn't realize that that's what I was doing
Okay. Yeah.
until yeah, quite honestly, I didn't know. I
It's
just
okay.
knew what I wanted. I knew that I wanted representation. I knew that what everything that I do, or at least that everything I try to do, is with the intention of giving back. I call myself and very proudly a servant leader. I have no problem calling myself a servant leader, because I am here to serve. I feel like I was brought to this world um to not to leave something, and to leave some sort of impact. And so I mix the worlds of me loving fashion, of giving back, and representation, and all of that, you know.
Yeah.
And I wanted also to make sure that in all of this, and I know that you're gonna learn me very quickly. I'm gonna be bouncing around from everything. Your questions are so amazing, but then it's like, oh, I want to, say all of this other stuff. But
It's okay.
I do want to say, I want Latinos. Just I want to break that mold of like of the stereotypical, Colombian and Mexican and, Peruvian and all of that. So for me as a Latina, Mexican Latina is we're more than tacos. We're more than
Yeah.
the tequilas and the mariachis, and all that's part of our culture, and we love it, and that's great. But we're so much more. So that I felt like bridging like a little bit of what I am and who I am into
Of
this
course.
world, right? But just to kind of go back to your question as far as how the two came together, it just kind of happened, like I said, and I started to realize that one of our first shows was kind of based off of giving back,
Okay.
So then that's when I realized that I do need to separate the two. I do need to make sure that the for profit stays true to what people have that expectation of, experience a true fashion week experience as Latinos, and what that looks like, and bringing forth and giving space to the established Latinos designers, and giving them, like you say, their flowers and their stage, and creating the best stage that I can for them, and giving credit where credit is due on that big stage. On the for our nonprofit, I think that what I've started to see and separate was the fact that we have a student initiative program here in Arizona and in LA. And what that looks like is we started this 2 years ago in a middle school as a pilot program. I was approached by a CTE uh mm, school official, and she wanted to see if I could put something together to see how it would go. As many people in this country, or not many people, but many schools are getting a lot of defunding programs of the arts and so forth. And so we've been trying to keep the art in itself alive one way or the other.
Yeah.
So we went into a middle school, we created an after school program. It did really, really well.
Great.
Then I was asked to do more programs throughout the inner city schools. Then it kind of led into the high schools as well. And
Mm.
so, and into the Superior Court of Arizona, we've done some partnering with them as well. And so I started to see that both worlds are amazing and both worlds can come together, but at the same time, they're still very separate.
It's just how intriguing how two things kind of like mesh together, like how it kind of folds into one another. And it's sometimes it just takes the act of doing to actually make it come to life and see them associate and work and come together really well. And I mean, again, I go back to it. It takes one individual to make these things come to life, and I'm so proud and happy to say that you've done this, and you're making a real difference not only in these children's life, but like you were saying, well established artisans who are giving time and effort to making their passions come to life and joining in on a show like this. And it's really incredible how much you've allowed for this community to grow and really put on something very special here. So that being said, what we're really trying to pitch here is I'm giving you the floor now to like really, because we're kind of dancing around this, but I really want people to understand, like on June 13th at the Arizona Center, your the power issue, culture in couture, 5 decades of fashion, politics, and cultural influence brought to life in a runway. For someone who hasn't experienced Latino Fashion Week event before, describe that evening, uh, and how someone's gonna feel in that moment.
Absolutely. The power issue came to me as a concept because, again, it's all behind the power, right? And power means a lot of different things to different people, just like everybody has their own definition. But I think that we're using the power issue as the platform or the concept to allow the designers to show their power, their superpower,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know? And so someone that has never been to one of our events will walk away just like every and honestly, I wish I could tell you something um so spectacular and so different as to like what they're going to experience. We're going to have flaming lights from just
Yeah.
they're going to have such an amazing experience in itself. Like we have an amazing production prepared for them, but I think the most important thing that they're going to experience and walk away with is knowing more, being connected more,
Mhm.
more knowledge. Like literally, I think the word is more. Like if I could sum all of this up in just to one word, is more, which is crazy for me to just use one word because I can talk we can talk,
We could
you
talk.
know?
Yeah.
But it's they would just experience more of more culture. They're going to experience more community. They're going to just experience so much more than they would typically experience um just all around. And I say this as a proud mama of the production and everything because when you talk to any parent, their kid's always the cutest and the prettiest and the most smart and the
Yes.
strongest and
Yes.
everything. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I just think that our guests are just going to experience so much um knowledge, and not only that, but I think it's also what we've created with all of our events. In this particular event is our VIPs, our general admission guests are VIPs.
Mhm. Mhm.
Our VIPs are VIPs. So everybody has that whole experience. What the only difference is that um some people will know a little bit more about us already than others. But I feel like if they're the first time coming to our events, they're just going to walk away with just knowing that what it is that we do, how we're uh, giving back. And then they're also going to see and understand how they also can give back. Because at the same time, it is a pay forward type of
Yeah.
um, community.
Yeah.
We are putting our events are free, for by the way. I'm just letting you know that our events are completely free with that whole intention of like making sure that our students, parents and family members and just community themselves don't feel left out because they can't afford to buy a ticket for our foundation events.
I mean, again, I love for when it's free. It's so much nice feeling to like say it's like it's a free event. And I have no doubt when you put the intention out there of like, hey, look, we're doing this free event, but we have every intention of you supporting these important artisans. I will always go back to artisans
Mhm.
because everything that they do is art and it comes in
Exactly.
different styles and different shapes and forms. So I usually go straight to artisan. But again, thank you to you for allowing your time and commitment to this project to come to life. And the other thing that I think that I this leads into my next question is you're announcing the launch of the Foundry Student Initiative at this event. It's a project runway style mentorship for Phoenix students. And I really kind of curious about like what gap does this program fill that wasn't being filled before? And what do you want these students to walk away believing about themselves?
Oh my gosh, yes. Your questions are so good. Oh my
Thank you. I
gosh.
appreciate that.
Yes, they're amazing. So the Fashion Foundry for us for the Student Initiative Program, it is exactly that. It's a fashion project runway style project, and that's the best way that I could describe it when I'm talking about it because people are pretty familiar with
Yeah.
the Project Runway.
Yeah.
What we've done is we have a multitude of students. So we have a lot of different students that we're helping either get into esthetician school, beauty school, barber school. Like that's kind of how our program works. But we've selected for high school students that have already graduated. They've all went through a process of an application, an essay. They go through an interview process with us, a recommendation letter of their teacher. So we go through all of these like really fun things, but we do kind of implement a source of like to see how much they want it in a way, right?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
And so they've selected four students to be part of I call them the Fantastic Fashion Four. because they really are.
That's great.
These students, yeah, they're amazing. We can make a whole movie. We need to, they have the capes and
Oh,
everything
absolutely.
designed by them.
Small
But
small documentary for every year that you do this.
this might, yeah, exactly. And you know what? And you and the podcast might be the host of all
There
of
you
this
go.
craziness
There.
that we
I'll
have
do the
going on.
after show. Like after it's all
There,
said and done, it's like they'll bring everyone back. Let's talk about what the chaos went down.
Well, let me tell you, that's exactly where we're headed to. We do have production. We have people recording. We're going.
Awesome.
So yeah, no, it's amazing. These fashion students will go through a 9-month program. Each month, there's a style or fashion challenge. These students have been assigned a fashion mentor, meaning an instructor that's going to teach them exactly how to design the concept of all of that. But they have the one-on-one with that professor. And these professors are ASU professors, Phoenix College professors. These are people that are in the industry already, and they're educators themselves, so they understand the whole thing. So these students are very privileged to be able
Yeah.
to have that one-on-one kind of class type of scenario with these amazing professors. And not only that, but they will have their own glam team. So they're assigned their own glam team, their own hair and their own makeup team. They will also have their own photographer and their own videographer, so then they can create their own concept of content and all of that. So we've equipped them
Mhm.
with everything that they may need so they can get familiar with exactly what the industry requires of them, a little bit of pressure, through the challenge, and then they present their looks of what that interpretation of what the concept is
Mhm.
for them every month. And then we invite an audience to come, and we have them have an audience. We have a panel of industry leaders
Nice.
as well, so
Yeah.
then they get to meet them. And then we also have each month it's sponsored by someone that is donated something to that particular month, and so then that group wins that whatever is being donated to them, and they can utilize it however they want for the next. So it's so cool. It's so much fun.
You
Um,
are really giving it the real like you're really providing a service to these youngsters because it's really something truly beautiful. You don't get this a lot of places. Like and it's incredible that you are someone who's been able to connect with these great individuals not only outside like the bigger names and to bring them to the students, but also these students themselves and one of the questions that I did have is when you think about these creatives that you've worked with so far and the ones that were from underserved communities, who's stepped on stage that they'd never expected to be on, is there one moment that or a student that stays with you and reminds you why you do this?
Yes, I have many
Good.
students. Many, I can go on and on. This might be a part two.
Yes.
And we can have the students, but I remember I always talk about this one student all the time. Um, she stayed with me as an intern
Oh,
when
nice.
she first was a freshman at ASU. She stayed with me, and it was only supposed to be early on, just internship,
Yeah.
but she stayed her whole entire 4 years. Then she stayed after, and then she was offered a really good opportunity in New York by a big brand. She asked us to write a letter of recommendation. I wrote her a stellar recommendation letter because she deserved it. She got the job. She moved to New York,
Great.
experienced New York. And then from there, from that point, she was able to go to LA and get a job there. So she's currently in LA. But I share that story with all of the students because she is me, I am her, she is them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that that's also part of it too. Is I see myself in the students. I see myself as the 9-year-old little girl that at that age, I realized that I was the interpreter of the family. I was the
Yeah.
pretty much everything and the solution problem when it came to the language and all of that. So I understand. I'm very much aware of the need, and the lack of resources that are out there for us. And I know that our parents love us to death, and they instill education, you know, very much. But at the same time, you do have students that or parents that don't know what to do besides encourage them. And our parents come to this beautiful country to work, to provide,
Yes.
and to not be a burden. And but at the same time, they're so they don't know that there's resources out there. They don't even know where to begin to start. So for us, that is part of that commitment, is making sure that we are part of the solution.
Yes.
It doesn't matter, and I stress this to all of them, the parents and themselves. It doesn't matter if it comes down to something that's not fashion related.
Mhm.
We know so many people that will help you. Like our
Yeah.
goal is literally to assist. And so um the students, like I said, I can go on, and I think that another student that stood out, I remember I had a speaking engagement, and one of the questions is, where do you see yourself after high school? And he rose his hand, and he's like, honestly, I'm just gonna apply at a retail store or McDonald's. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a starting point. But for him to think that
The
like
only
that's where he was gonna
yeah.
be or go, um, that's not what we as a Latino community should be facing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and our students are and it does take a village. It does take a village. It does require every single one of us to be able to come in and share as much as we can with them as knowledge and experiences. I think more than anything is we're trying to, like you mentioned, we're trying to share experiences with the students and equip them and connect them. But at the end of the day, we do tell them, you have to also put in your part, and they have so far. They've not let us down. We're able to have a free program because a lot of what they are required are a certain amount of volunteer hours. So
Yeah.
they're required to put in hours at some of the other events they may not be participating in, and so forth. And their families are also willing, as tight as their time is. They always will make sure that we are not suffering when it comes to the help.
Yeah. I There's so many things that I wanna just bring up to you that one, I am very, like I'm when you speak about being the person with the language, you're for your family, like, my father, he's Puerto Rican, and growing up, that was my thing, is, like, I had to, help him answer the phone sometimes, and with some early on, he got better with English, and he's better now, but it's like the I had a small period and a small window where, like, yeah, that was my whole idea and representation of life, of like
Mhm.
being around
Mhm.
a lot of Latinos on the East Coast. But then my mom being Native American, we moved, and I was culture shocked into this other place and identity. And that was something that it took some time to get past, but also it took some time to also learn to adapt and to restructure and reorganize, into this kind of new ideology or understanding of, like, what's going on around me, what the tribe represents, what they
Mhm.
do specifically for their cultural events and stuff like that. So, reassessing and redoing that kind of relearning of life was so fantastic as a young man growing up. It really taught me perspective. And so, representation on all forms, like, you were talking about this kind of being in both worlds. That's kind of how I am.
Mhm.
I know I'm Puerto Rican, and I know I'm a Native American. So I try my best to um, help both sides as best as I can. And I know one of the first things people will always see first is the Latino side, because of the way I look and the name that I represent. So
Mhm.
I will do everything I can to live up by that mentality and structure, because I want my father's name to really mean something, um, in a good light, in that
Of
sense. Like, I
course.
really want to do that for him. That's just the way I was raised. But the idea of representation, I go back to our discussion on how much it's grown and how much it's being caretaked by people like yourselves and what it represents today. Phoenix is one of the most Latino cities in the United States, and yet the
Hmm. Hmm.
mainstream fashion has largely looked past this community. What does it mean to build a platform that specifically centers that story, and what changes when people see themselves reflected on the runway?
You make such good points. And first, just to touch a little bit about the similarities that you and I have on representation and stuff. And I didn't. I'm so glad to hear you're Native American. That's such honestly, that is something you. Oh my God, that's a beautiful thing,
Thank you.
because as a Native American, I think you have to understand that that's where the history started, and that's our ancestor. When you talk about roots, you're gonna make me cry because that is really where the roots started. That's where we began, and so representing that proudly and acknowledging that and understanding where that came from, and being that your mom is Native American is even more, to me, even more heartfelt, because I think that you came from your mother. And so her being Native American is also it just has it's so deep.
Mhm.
It's so so deep. So I'm so proud and so honored again to be able to share this with you. But
Oh, thank you. You're the best,
yeah,
Rosa. No, you are so
no,
fantastic.
seriously.
You should have.
No,
I just again, I want to say this. It's definitely a highlight for me because I know how much it is hard to get people to um cheerlead for you and to work hard towards a goal, especially when you're just like in the trenches doing it. I want you to know that there are people in other parts of this city and other parts of this whole state that want you to succeed just as
thank
badly as
you.
you do. So, if there's any takeaway from our conversation, it is absolutely that I think you have such a great ability and such a great talent with every single one of these students and every single one that you have in your network, because to have something created from the mind of ideas and to make it come and flourish on different scales, on different events, you are the representation of those. And so I applaud you. And if there's any
Thank
way
you.
that I can help you even more past this, we won't discuss it afterwards. But
We
I
will.
I really do. I truly thank you for your how much you've put into your journey and your career.
Well, and I think that, again, it with the Puerto Rican side, the Boricua side of you, that you guys have also, there's just so much like culture and story and history that needs to be told. Like we need to get through those stereotypical, like what we're told that we are. It's
Yeah,
like, no, that's not what we are. Thank you for seeing some of us, some a piece of me, but that's not all of what we are. And
yeah.
like I said, you have such a beautiful heritage running through your blood, so I think like the Native American part to me is it just touched me, because I do consider myself indigenous and I do consider myself part of that community. And so I 100%, we will definitely talk, because that's a different thing, where
Thank
I'll
you.
I'll go
Thank
on
you.
and on,
Okay.
trust me. um but I think that part of, to your question, part of all of that comes from not being erased as far as our culture, and our history and our fashion. So I think fashion is really our storytelling part. You know what I mean? That it really is. It's I mean, we're not a costume, number one. That's, I think that we can be appreciated without having to be that. You know what I mean? You can
Yes.
wear um certain pieces of what our culture represents as fashion, and understand, and I think, again, I think for all of it is it's mainly the history.
Yeah.
I want people to understand that behind fashion, there, behind, in front, all around, it's history, history, history. And so in order for us to authentically and genuinely be able to tell our story, we have to know where each each look or each design comes from. And when it comes to the student initiative, we always ask the students to do the history when we are picking out those
Mhm.
challenges, so then they also learn, like, let's say, a Puerto Rican challenge,
Yeah.
what does this mean, or all of that, and so it's just very well curated, so it's also teaching outside of what their circle is. But when it comes to, the fashion and bringing it to Phoenix and being such a huge, one of the largest cities in the country, and in Latino representation being exactly what you just mentioned,
Yeah.
um, I just feel that it's time. It
Yeah.
is just time.
Yeah.
It is time. Yes, we've been overlooked for whatever reason it may be, but I believe in the power of timing. I believe in the power of what is meant to be, and what is meant for you will be yours, and it's all about when it's supposed to happen. And I think for us, it is our time now,
Absolutely.
as Latino Fashion Week, as a community, as just people,
Mhm.
of feeling underrepresented, of people feeling robbed, people just feeling that our story is not being told the way it needs to be told. So I just feel that it is just time.
Yeah.
It is just time for us to be heard, to be seen, to be everything. And with all of that, also means that we have to break through those boundaries that we were told that we can't step out of. Meaning, yes, we need to support each other
Yeah.
as a Latino community. We need to buy into Latino artisans. But at the same time, that's very tricky as well. And I talk about this a lot is, as a Latino culture, we also need to make sure that we're also not robbing our own,
Yes. Absolutely.
because when we're trying to support, we need to make sure that where we're buying, it is what you want it to be. But at the same time, we also need to understand, in order for us to get into the big box stores, if that is what a designer may want to do or a student may want to do, we need to step outside of the safe zone is what I
Yes.
call it. We're constantly being told, don't go too far. Stay, within, this is your community. This is where you should stay. You don't need to explore it outside, because this is where you're loved. This is where you're
Yeah. Yeah.
held, you know. But I think with the proper support, the proper guidance, you'll be able to go outside of that boundary. You'll be able to get your feet wet outside of that and get uncomfortable with being in those spaces,
Yes.
because we can't complain about not having a seat at the table or not being invited if we're afraid to just go. You're not always going to be at the seat at the table, but if you are in the room, you'll get to the seat at the table. You'll get a seat at the table. So I think that that was one thing that we kept in mind when I put this together, and is that I wanted to make sure that our students and our designers established and emerged and understood that you have to step outside of your safe zone. You have to step outside of your Latino community, where you know you're loved and you know you're embraced.
Yeah.
You just have to,
Yeah.
in order for you and for us to be able to grow. You have to go through that uncomfortable experience. And yes, you're not going to be welcome sometimes, but you know what? Just know that when you walk into a room and you're the only one in there, just see yourself as a trailblazer. Take that as an armor, and
Yes.
leave that space with knowing, you know what, yes, I was the only one, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to bring two
Mhm.
or three more,
Yeah.
and then we're going to come back, and we're going to bring four, five, six, and then soon I'll be at the table, and then there'll be a multitude of people that look like me. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a process, and it is a process, but I think together we can do it.
You bring up so many things inside of me. One of the things that I always tell people is, in that kind of vein of like, don't be afraid to stretch and try something new. I'm a big time runner. I love to run. It's a thing that I grew up around. But one of the things is like, A lot of people, a lot of the human race didn't think that we could beat the mile under 4 minutes. But it wasn't until the first person did it that you start now in today's modern age where high schoolers are now beating the mile under 4 minutes. So it just takes the first person to show representation that it is possible, that you have the capability. You just got to work hard for it. And so that kind of, brings out more and more. The other thing is, one of the things that we were taught when we were graduating out, and knowing that the students would go out into the world and kind of be a representation of the tribe. And during our graduation, it was a beautiful story that one of the teachers told, was like, yes, you are a thread in this rope that we share together. So you can go out, but what we hope is that you come back and make us stronger. That's the whole point of trying to do something new and show that you have the capability to go out into the world, but still come back and help those who are still seeking those opportunities. And that's the thing that I still feel like I need to work on a lot of the times, but I want I've had people come ask me about podcasting, and I want them to, because it shows that their curiosity is there and their interest is there. And if I can influence that and help guide them into the world that I think that they would like a lot, then yeah, I'm glad that I have that capability and that representation and honor to do those types of things. So those are the types of stuff that I was like thinking about while you were discussing. Like, it's incredible to look at today's modern era of Latinos in the market, in the entertainment business. And one of the things that comes along my Instagram reel is like Devin Booker, who is one of the Phoenix Suns' top players. And, his shoes, his fashion, and what he represents. And then moving forward, and even beyond that, the other like Bad Bunny, what he represents and what he brings to the facet and bringing into the market, and what he's trying to highlight. But again, if you look closely, each of them has their struggle. Each of them has a
Mhm.
story that they're trying to tell. And if you watch and how they move, it's just, again, another thing that I find very interesting, being a Latino male, how they take criticism, or how they take in the negativity and what they put back out into the world. So those two guys I've mentioned was like, they have this innate ability to just really show up and show out, and really, it really brings a good light to what I think Latino men and the culture should look towards, as far as representing yourself, but also trying something new, really going to stretch the lengths of culture, fashion, ideas, and who you are. So those, I give two representations of that, but it's really great that you, again, someone like yourself, who is guiding those newcomers, new ideas,
Mhm.
and giving them the opportunity to shine most. And so that's really great. And now, as we end our conversation, I have looking towards the future and kind of these kind of questions, but let's talk about the state that we're both in, and the fact that we're here in Arizona and we've planted our flag here. What's happening in Arizona in the creative and fashion scene right now that the rest of the country is missing out? And I look at you and I say, hey, they're missing out on a real beauty of not only what you're putting out, but like, again, these names that are representing their culture in a very new kind of ideas, and they're young, they're fresh, and they're really breaking out.
They really are. I agree with you. y- w- I think the world, or the country, as far as what they're missing out here, when it comes to Arizona and the fashion, is gosh, that's a really good question. And because I could is there's so much,
Yeah.
I think that there's so much within Arizona. Like, there's culture, there's people, there's, and soon hopefully there'll be a stronger presence in fashion. But I think that that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to make sure that the country, the world, whoever sees Arizona as also, a strong state for fashion, for Latino fashion, for representation, and for voice. I think that that's primarily what I want to make sure that everybody understands, that we want to be a voice. You know,
Yes.
we want everywhere where we go, LA, and we strategically realized that Arizona was definitely going to be the place that we wanted to start. We could have started in LA, but we didn't. You know,
Hmm.
Arizona is the flagship, and it started here. And we, like I said, we could have taken the easy route as far as starting where it could have really just completely blown up right away, but we chose not to. And it just goes back to the commitment that I keep talking about, you know, your community. This is where I was raised, and so you have to always make sure that you know, you stay true to your community. And to touch on, you know, Bad Bunny and Devin Booker, I think that both of them have that commitment on staying true and giving back to where they came from. You know, Bad Bunny, Puerto Rico, like they, not only Puerto Rico loves Bad Bunny, but they love him as a person. You
Yeah.
know, like he has shown Puerto Rico the love and showing them that he has their back. And this is how, and he has not said it, but he has shown it.
Shown through
You know, the
action.
same. Exactly, and so has, Devin Booker. I think Devin Booker driving in his old school Impala, wearing the chucks and,
Opening
you
up
know, the
basketball
Dickies.
courts for kids.
All of
Oh,
exactly. So that to us, like we have to just be grateful as a community as to, obviously these are superstars. They're not gonna easily walk back into their neighborhood and just say, "Oh, here's this," you know. But they are doing their best to give back, and I think that that's how. And they've done an amazing job. Like
yeah.
trust me, I know that it's and we hope to be at that level soon. You know, we really do. We really commit ourselves to growth. We see it. We have already are working on so many new things that are coming up, that are going to continue to give back, that are going to continue to open doors for other people, not just the students, but just the community themselves, and making sure that we become this center of Arizona, where communities, people, but especially our own, feel safe and feel comfortable coming and being proud, and not feeling that they need to assimilate to anything that they're being told that they need to assimilate to, because they don't need to. They were, you know, they were giving already a badge of honor with that ethnicity that they were born with, so they don't need to change anything about them. The only thing that I always tell them is just tell your story and know that you're not the only one going through. Trust me, there's over a
Yeah.
billion people in this world. There's no way that you're the only one, you know, going through this struggle. And in order for you to get to a good place, you have to go through challenges. They're not
Yeah.
struggles, they're more lessons, you know, and you have to be able to be okay that when you're in that moment, you almost have to feel more proud of the lesson that you're going through than the reward that you get, because the
Hmm.
lesson is going to, like, it builds your character, gets you thick skin. It just gives you so much more long term than
Yes.
the reward. Like you said, the flowers and the recognition feels really good, but then you're on to the next lesson. By the time you know it, you more likely there's a higher probability for you to have more lessons in life than you are rewards.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people go unrecognized that are doing so many things, but I'm sure their lessons have got them, you know, probably built their character so much more. So I think it's important for people to understand that, especially young kids, to know that the struggle is, it, that's the beautiful part of it. You know, don't shy away from it. Just grab it by its horns and say, okay, this is what I'm dealing with right now. What can I do to change this you know, specific situation? You know, chop it up in little pieces, look at the big picture, but you could only do one thing at a time. We were meant to be humans, not robots. You know, it's okay to have the breakdown. It's okay to call and lean onto somebody, because I think as our brown and black communities, we are not supposed to cry. We're not supposed, we're just, we don't have time. we don't have time to cry. We're
Yes.
like, oh,
Yes. No
you
time to
know,
cry. That's the best
we're
way to put
putting
it.
putting fires out constantly. We're like, oh my God, I just fixed this problem. Now I got this other problem, you know?
Yep.
And so it just, it's never ending, but that's part of life. And as much as we want to financially reach those goals, you know, on the financial part of it, I don't want it to be where that is your end, like, how should I say it? Kind of like where you feel like that's where your ultimate is, you
Yeah.
know, like
The
the
end all
finance
be
is
all
the
of everything
yes.
ends in the
Yeah,
dollar. Yeah,
exactly.
it and the one thing I can tell or kind of put my stake on and guarantee you that that is completely true is just the fact that I'm a parent. Like my son will is like I've talked to my wife about this or I've kind of heard this thing of like, yeah, I'll lose a couple of gigs, like things that lose out on, but nothing feels better than hearing that laughter, hearing the time,
Mhm.
like, "Hey, Dad did this with me because he could. He works from home," and those types of things, you know, I will take 100% over the dollar. And so, if I could be a testament of like just the little things in life are so much better, and you don't have to worry, let that dollar chase running after that dollar be the end all be all of like I promise you if you don't have kids it is something that had changed my life for the better, but on top of that I know that for a fact that there are other goals that can provide just as much sustenance. My feeling of like this podcast is like somewhat of an act of service for me. I want to be the cheerleader. I want to do everything to help those who come to us or ask of us. And so to me, it's like I will do everything in my power to like help those who are coming to us or help those who, you know, want something from us. I will always try and
Yeah.
find a way to like reach out a hand and support, whether that's through this or through time, effort, you know, whatever. But at the end of the day, if I can just say it's like, yeah, I try not to make the financials kind of tear me up inside when I know I'm a good person and I want to be known as that good guy. So I whatever I can to make that end of the day feeling be that, then that is something I tell people it's like it's
Oh
not
yeah.
gonna be that. It's the money's not gonna be the thing that gives you happiness at all.
And you know, and I think that and I want to touch on like just two, maybe three things. I know that we're on a time
Yeah,
constraint,
no
but
worries.
I wanna say um that when you are chasing something, it's not gonna stop for you. So the best thing to do is for you to stop, focus, reevaluate, be the magnet for it.
Yeah.
Because it's almost kind of like when you're chasing it, the further it runs from you. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
when you're still, it almost seems like things happen to you when you least expect it. You're like, oh my God, you'll never guess what just happened to me. But I've been wanting this opportunity for this person. And then when you kind of like, you know, focus on something else, almost that opportunity comes your way. The same, you know, for me with Latino Fashion Week, 2 years ago when we first were talking, we've been talking about it for a while, but 2 years ago when I really kind of dug into it, I wanted this opportunity. I wanted what's
Yeah.
happening now 2 years ago. But it wasn't happening 2 years ago
Okay.
because it wasn't the time for me,
Yeah.
you know? And so I think I've accepted and understood that, 1, I will always be okay. I will always be provided for. There is always going to be something, whether you believe in God or, you know, whatever it is that you believe, higher being that you believe. Um, Most importantly, believing in yourself, also knowing that you're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Everything's gonna be fine. And people can say, money, I have to work. I have, you know, I need money to live. And yes, we're not telling you quit your job and just do all of this other stuff,
Yeah.
but we're saying, you know, make sure that you understand that you have your gift. Everybody has one.
For sure.
Focus on
For
your
sure.
gift while you're trying to get there. So then therefore, you know, it all of it will come. And I know a lot of students are trying to make it, quote unquote, so they can help their family
Yeah.
financially,
Yeah.
right? So, but they have to focus on themselves and they have to understand that it's gonna come when it's supposed to come, always at the perfect time. It's never at the wrong time. And my mom always says, money always comes right when you need it, at the exact moment, And so
Gotta love
I
mom.
I, I think, right, so it's true. It's you never. And then just to touch on what you're saying and making time with your son, I think outside of just having that representation as Latinos community, as women, I can speak as a Latina, but I also know that we need strong males. So, as a dad yourself, and as your dad was with you, and elders stepping in to help the young men, we need strong young men to be able to step and feel confident to represent our community as well. I think as Latinas, we're kicking butt. Like, we are
No
in
doubt.
there, and
No doubt.
we are we are dominating. We are just doing everything that we're able to do and get our hands on and get in front of and get behind of. But I think that we also need to make sure that we stay focused on the men, and we also understand that we need strong young men, and that's only going to come from, again, still supporting them and getting them to understand we're on this Latina wave, empowerment, and I think all of that is great. But I do think that there needs to be that same empowerment behind the men in general and the young men to make sure that we also have strong.
Absolutely. So I will conclude our conversation by just saying I'm going to give you the platform to let everyone know all the important details. And this is your chance to promote for June 13th and any other things that you want to throw out there. The floor is yours, Rosa. Take it away.
Oh, thank you, Jose. Thank you so much. Yes, we have an amazing event planned for everybody on June 13th called The Power Issue Volume 1, Culture in Couture. We will be featuring publicly our student initiative, which is the Fashion Foundry. We will be meeting 4 amazing students that are going to be challenged in different ways throughout the 9 months. We will also have emerging designers, and what that means is young designers coming out. They've already hit the runways in different ways, and they have their collections. They have a line, but now we're featuring them ourselves as well. And we also have an intermission of special needs kids who will be performing for us. They've selected to do a small little piece of a hip hop section, so they'll be out there just repping some hats of a designer who his name is Brandon Ramsey. Yep, they'll be wearing his hats where they have positive message, encouraging messages, and so there's just so much to be able to share, and the only way to know is by everybody coming in. If you can't come in, check us out on Instagram. We constantly have events every month. So with the student initiative, there's going to be monthly events. We also have monthly memberships where people can donate
Nice.
as well. If you're not able to, make a large contribution, we have as little as $25 a month where people can donate every month to our student initiative. And this ensures that everything that needs to be covered is covered, because up to this point, for the past 2 years, it's been coming out of our my fashion family fund and stuff. So it's like, every month
I
I'm
get
like,
it.
oh, how am I going to do it? But again, I'm a testament to it always gets taken care of.
You are a true saint in that manner of like
Oh,
you're going above and beyond so many things, and you always find a way to make it work. And I have no doubt that with this everything that you put on, you are just capable, and it's going to work, and it's some way, like we were talking about, it'll come to fruition, and you've got
that's right.
this. So Rosa, thank you so much for being on the show today. I will conclude us by saying, hey, everyone, you can watch every one of our podcasts at findingarizonapodcast.com, Finding Arizona Podcast under all social media platforms, so we make it easy for you guys to connect with us. And last but not least, we always end our conversations with a kisses, hugs, and belly rubs to our 4-legged friends, and we will see you next time. Bye, y'all.
Bye.